Hello everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media. Now for our new viewing audience, many of you may not know this, but Hard Lens Media was on the radio and on television for a short period of time, and we interviewed numerous community leaders, activists, people running for office who are trying to bring in change, especially on the local level in the city of Chicago. And returning to our new studio, a former guest of ours, Carylon, Ruff, thank you so much for joining us here on Hard Lens Media.
Thank you for having me.
A lot has changed since the last time we have spoken to you. You were working on a lot of different projects, especially your protest against Mysha. So right. I think there's a couple of things I want to bring up. Number one, because we have a new audience, let's just get a good idea of what Black Lives Matter Women of Faith is. Can you just give us a background on what that is? And then also, you were one of the leading figures against the closing of Mysha. And I think a lot of our audience really doesn't know what that is. So because this is, again, a local story here in the city of Chicago. So let's get your perspective of what's going on, what happened, and let's get an idea of just who you are.
Okay. I'm Carylon Ruff, founder of Black Lives Matter Women of Faith. And we also have a page, Black Lives Matter Men and Women of Faith, on Facebook. So Black Lives Matter, what we do is we do a lot of protesting for people that has been brutally abused by different companies or by the police, brutality by the police. We do a lot of protesting to bring awareness to the community so they cannot sweep it under the rug, so to speak. So we could get justice for the people that we are fighting for. We did that for LaQuan McDonald. That's when Black Lives Matter Women of Faith decided to have a organization. It's a nonprofit organization, and LaQuan, which is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, she and I got together and we started working with some of our young people in the community, as well as working with a lot of homeless people, like giving them blankets, warm blankets for the winter, and feeding them, and then we started working with our young people, back to school, book bags, material, stuff like that, and we also mentor our young people. So this is what we're all about, and we are growing as a organization. People around the country is part of Black Lives Matter Women of Faith. We have about close to 1,000 people now on our page.
Now, I think what a lot of people may not be aware of, especially when we look at Chicago's, well, brutal and sad history. I mean, we have to be honest. I mean, I love this city, but there are problems with Chicago's history, and especially in regards towards you know, we have to remember that Chicago has a history of hyper segregation, and it's been a long ongoing issue with this city in regards towards really how certain communities are denied resources and materials needed so that communities can thrive and be functioning. And let's be honest right now. I mean, there's a huge amount of gentrification that's happening in Chicago, and people are being displaced. I mean, you know, there was a report, I believe last year, stating that African Americans are leaving en masse in this city because it's just too expensive. The schools are being shut down. So from your experience right now, has anything changed since now we have Mayor Lightfoot in office and we have a new city council? I mean, it's
basically the same.
Can you give us a perspective of why it still is the way it is right now?
Well, we have a new mayor, of course, and I truly believe that she's trying her best to do a better job than our last mayor.
Mayor Rahm Emanuel,
yes. And she's only been in office like over 100+ days, you know, not even a year. And I think because I endorsed her, I think she's doing a good job.
Right.
That's my opinion, but a lot of people feel that she should do more. I don't understand that because she's only been in office for that short a period of time.
Right.
So, but as far as our people leaving the community, it's because everything is too high for them. Property taxes are constantly going up. You know, killing in our community is happening every day, you know, and no matter where you go, this is happening in every community. I just got back from Fort Worth, you know, and they're having the same problem as Chicago, you know.
Right. And so you were actually in Fort Worth, and I kind of want to have an idea of, okay, what's happening there, because apparently there was another horrific incident of police brutality. We'd kind of like know what exactly happened there, because again, there is, when the media does cover it, they only give just a few short minutes towards what happened there. But why were you there? What was the specific case in general?
Okay, basically I was there because a young lady, her name is Antiana Jefferson. She and her nephew was playing the video games in her house, and her door was open all day. So one of the neighbors called 311, which was a awareness care to come and check up on her to see if everything was okay. And the police got there, but they didn't come to the front door. They didn't identify themselves. They didn't have the lights on or whatever. So she and her nephew heard someone walking in the back of her house. Yeah. And so they went to the bedroom. By then, the police had already reached her bedroom window. He asked her to put her hands up. Before she could do that, he shot her in the head, while her nephew was there to see all of the traumatizing things that had happened to this young guy, that it was awful. Yeah. So I've been going back and forth. Of course, a lot of people know about what happened with LaQuan McDonald. You know, they've seen us protesting constantly. Yes. And so this is what they're doing. They're trying to get justice for her. They're trying to get justice for Joshua Brown, which was executed by... they want to say someone came from Louisiana and did this to this young man because he testified against Amber Geiger, you know, the police that shot Bolton. Yeah. So 2 days later, he was executed. So they're trying to say that someone else did it, but we know better. And just to get an idea, because I know when... Because I definitely want to go back to the story of the young woman definitely horrifically getting murdered for a quote unquote wellness check. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, there was no need for any of that violence to happen, and a police officer should not have done any of the things that he has done. Right. But because could you talk about LaQuan McDonald? Because we actually saw you at numerous protests with William Calloway and numerous other activists that were trying to bring in justice for LaQuan McDonald. And just seeing that case, there's a horrific truth, and that is there are more cases like LaQuan McDonald all over this country that are not being covered. And when I saw that short documentary, but the documentary film 16 Shots, it's quite clear that if the city of Chicago, is going to cover up something that horrific, numerous other towns and cities across the United States are doing, unfortunately, the same thing. So I think really one of the questions that must be asked is, how do we bring in reform towards law enforcement? How do we bring in accountability when for a long time the media and those in power turn a blind eye to it? Right. We just have to keep talking about it, because if we stop, then nothing's going to happen. So you just have to continue to bring awareness to the community that we're sick and tired of being abused by the police, kicked out of our community, put in jail or whatever. We got to come together as a community and unify and get together and make sure that we constantly bring awareness to the community, because if we don't, the future of our children is not going to have a future, because they're definitely killing our kids. And our kids are getting murdered every day. Our girls are being missing every day, the seniors. And so we just constantly, there's so much work that we have to do, to constantly bring awareness to the community, and we can't stop.
Right. And so when we look at that case in Texas, where this young woman was unfortunately murdered in front of her nephew by this police officer. Now, from what I've read in the reports, the cops were quickly got rid of him because, I mean, there was no way in any shape or form that they could twist it, which unfortunately is the majority of cases where, you have the police department try and say, well, no, it was self-defense. There was no, window of that.
Right.
What are some of the challenges that the activist groups there have to deal with? Because I know Texas and Illinois are two different states altogether with their own different laws.
Well, some of the challenges is that they have to come together and they have to stay together, because since I've been going back and forth protesting with them, their team is not as strong as Chicago. They're quickly to get intimidated. You know what I'm saying? And so they just constantly, and I told them that they have to bring awareness every day, because if they don't, this young lady would be history. But I truly think that this policeman, he was only on the force for 18 months or something like that.
Wow.
But I think that he has been convicted. I think he has been indicted. So hopefully...
It's one of the rare times where you could say that some, and I'm hesitant to say this, that some justice was delivered, but the sad fact is that there are other cases similar to that that are happening all over that are not being covered.
Exactly.
And were not for our smartphones and the ability to record and capture things live as they happen, or capture them when they do happen. Unfortunately, it's we could finally bring the light, hey, this is happening. And I think a lot of people, especially when it comes down to trying to bring in social change, get discouraged. So, you've seen a lot, especially with, I guess, especially with LaQuan McDonald's shooting, especially trying to bring justice for LaQuan McDonald. There was some justice, but then there wasn't some justice. I mean, the sentencing was not long enough.
Right.
And then there's also a lot of other things that the people who covered up the case are still, walking around. Nothing, no consequences or repercussions. One of those people is Mayor Rahm Emanuel, for example. His administration turned a blind eye to it. So we want to say to people who get discouraged when it's nothing can be done. What do you want to say to people?
You really can't get discouraged. You really have to stay strong, stay focused, and continue to fight for justice. You can't get discouraged because of the fact that you might have a bad day, but hey, don't let that bother you. You just have to stay strong and stay committed in what you're doing. And I truly believe eventually we will get justice for this young lady. And we got justice for LaQuan McDonald. Of course, yes, he should have gotten more years.
The officer
which is Jason Van Dyke, should have gotten more years, but he got some years, put it that way. He's not walking the street, killing another child or whatever, No, I'm not happy with the amount of years that he got, but I'm satisfied that he got some years, put it that way.
And, the thing is, especially when I saw the premiere of 16 Shots, actually seeing that whole case, and I do recommend people to check it out. It's surprising to see the defense in which he was trying to tell his story when during that documentary you see what exactly happened, and his version of the story, Jason Van Dyke's story, does not add up. I mean, I've worked my time in editing videos, and there's just no way you can edit that kind of video, make it seem like that happened. No, that's impossible. But there is some moments of victory too, because as Chicago is being gentrified, and of course with gentrification, there's businesses that are set up, new real estate comes in, starts displacing people. Now you are actually protesting against a store called Mysha.
Mysha, yes.
And I was practicing now. I think I got it correct. Did I hope I did.
Yeah, you did.
You were protesting against it, and you successfully shut it down. And I think it's important for our viewers to because this is a local thing here in the city of Chicago. Can you just tell us what Mysha was, what was it about? What exactly led to this long protest?
Okay, thank you. What happened in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mysha is a beauty supply store, and this young lady was brutally abused in one of his chain stores, which the owner lived here in Bolingbrook. I'm sorry, Buffalo Grove. I get the two mixed up. Okay. Buffalo Grove, and they're cousins. And this young lady, they said that she was stealing some eyelashes or whatever, but I understand she was not stealing. It was so many different stories told regarding this incident. And so what they did, she was pregnant, and they beat her, and she was in the hospital for a while. And so when we heard that, it went viral. When we heard that in Chicago, a friend of mine called and asked me to view the video. And she said, there's a Mysha here in Chicago. But at the time, we didn't do any studying that on this store because we didn't know that the owners were here in Chicago until we started reading a lot of things about what was going on in this Mysha in Chicago, you know. So March 13th, we decide to hold a boycott, to boycott this store, to let people know that we cannot accept any business that abuse our young people or people in general, and they're constantly taking money from us, from the community. Right. So we started boycotting that store, and it went on, and it started out with a crowd of people. And so I guess some people think that a boycott is like a protest, but it's not. You know, a boycott could last forever. Right. You know, as long as you're hitting them in their pockets, you know. So we continued to boycott that store. Then it just ended up with me boycotting the store. But I went there every day, including the winter hours I was there.
Right, because you mentioned this especially when we were on the radio too. Like you were like, and just so I have an idea, this was like way back in early 2018.
17.
Oh, 2017.
Yes, it happened in 2017, March of 2017, and I got arrested August 8th of 2017 on false charges. You know, and then in 2019, just recently. I got detained by the police again. And of course, on the video, they said that they were going to arrest me because I didn't have a permit to be out there protesting. And, you know, I've been out there almost 3 years. So instead, they took me to the University of Chicago to have me evaluated to say I was crazy or whatever. But yeah. So yeah.
So the Chicago Police Department did that to you?
They did that to me, handcuffed me. They tackled me to the ground. They hurt my, my arm. And I got bruised by them. And right now, whenever I think about it, you know, I tear up. So, but it was really devastating to me how they treated me. And it was just, you know, cops that, you know, I just can't talk about it.
I understand completely. But it did shut down. And I think it's important that, you know, people, especially all across Chicago, need to step up because the gentrification is, you know, we talk about it a lot on our show, especially when it comes down towards the TIF funds and what should be done with them. But like on the west and south side areas of Chicago, there's a lot of gentrification happening, but it's also happening on the north side. Yeah. And the thing is, what's happening is you're seeing local businesses being shut down, communities being displaced. So I think let's actually bring in something positive, and that's how the community is trying to retake the community, because we're seeing activists all over Chicago trying to buy up empty spaces, create businesses where the community can actually invest their money in, and they in turn still keep it afloat, even though the city, which should be doing its job, it should be helping the people out. So let's talk about some positive aspects that are happening, especially with the community. So what have you seen firsthand?
Well, I haven't really seen too much of anything, to be honest with you.
All right.
There are some Black businesses that's, you know, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of Black businesses. It's mostly people that don't look like me moving into our community, mistreating our children, our seniors, and I haven't really seen a change in Chicago yet. you know, and that's going to take a lot of work. We all going to have to come together and, you know, and bring awareness to that, because that's the only way it's going to happen. We have to unify. We have to fight for our community, because people are moving in and we're moving out, you know, and so.
So obviously, it's quite clear that, especially here in Chicago, there's always a lot of roadblocks stopping people from trying to, you know, I guess, get some justice. And the thing is, you know, I believe that this city, it can make a rebound after all the years and years of corruption. And granted, there's a lot of years of corruption and mismanagement. But, you know, the one thing I've seen, especially when we started Heartlands Media, is like a lot of activist groups, community organizers, community leaders are stepping up, and they're not backing down. And while it seems like such a monumental task, everyone who we've interviewed in the past are still fighting the good fight. People like yourself. And I think for our viewing audiences, so they have a better idea to know more about Black Lives Matter Women of Faith and Black Lives Matter or Men and Women of Faith, could you tell our viewers and subscribers where they can find out more about them online and on social media?
Sure. You could go to Facebook. We're on Facebook, Black Lives Matter Women of Faith. That's one of our pages. And Black Lives Matter Men and Women of Faith. That's our second page, which anybody could join that page. But as far as Black Lives Matter Women of Faith, it's basically set up for women only. And if you have anything that you want to put on that page that that we could look at and know what's going on in your city, please feel free to do so, because I noticed like in Atlanta, Georgia, they're boycotting a service station that pulled a gun out on one of the pastors there, and so they're trying to shut that store down. So I'm just saying, if you have any information that you want to share with us in Chicago so we could be some kind of assistant to you, please feel free to do so.
All right. It's a fantastic note to end it on. Carylon, first, congratulations on your victory of shutting down Mysha. And also keep up the good fight, because, you know, now more than ever, people need to step up. This is Kit Cabello with Heartlands Media, and I want to once again thank Carylon Ruff for joining us. Peace, everyone, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.